We're here at the overnight parking for Big Pine Creek. About to get started on the South Fork journey. I lightened my pack. Importantly, it is not 50 pounds the way it was at Mineral King. The trail bit should be okay, but the off-trail bits of the South Fork of Big Pine Creek are supposed to be pretty challenging, so let's do it. What is it? It is an expedition to the Big Pine Creek area to visit the Palisade group with the intent of attempting a summit of Mount Sill, which is the only member of that group that has any routes that don't require climbing. There are climbing routes to the top of Sill, but Sill's the only one that doesn't require it. Okay, back to the trail. That is the South Fork of Big Pine Creek. That there's a glacier. I'm pretty sure that's the middle Palisade situation, so that's not where we're going. We're gonna go up this way. It's gonna be a day, so here we go. Let's keep going. We just crossed the South Fork of Big Pine Creek. We're about to leave the course of the creek, still on the trail, but we have reached the point where we're gonna go around something. I will tell you what the name of that mountain is at some point. I do not know it currently, and I'd have to flip my map over in a very inconvenient way to tell. But the South Fork, the Big Pine Creek, drops off to the right of this headland. And instead of going brute force up this, we are going to have to go behind that. That's where our off-trail shenanigans really begin. But our trail is right here. That is not true. All right, not for the first time, and certainly not for the last. I misread the route, just got the scale a little bit off. So we're not going where I pointed. So we're not going around both of the blocks. We're going up here. That is not true. I hate being wrong, but I was wrong again. We are, in fact, just going up that rock face to the left and leaving the mountains next to it alone. It's about to get a lot harder. As we enter the John Muir Wilderness, it goes like this, beneath this cliff face, over and around and through, and then back behind this giant piece of rock. So it's a lot steeper than I was gonna give it credit for. Remember that tune. Hot damn. That section of the trail is hard. All right, but I gotta get up this thing in order to get around this thing, so we gotta keep going.
Here we are now going to the east side. I pick up my friends and we start to ride. Ride all night, yeah, we ride all day. The sun may come, go, the sun may stay. Here we are now going to the west side. Weapons in hand.
This is just incredible stuff, guys. All right, these are the bad boys we saw on the way in. Clyde Middle Palisade. I don't know what that middle rock is there, but these bad boys over here. That blocky thing in the distance right there. That is Sill. Okay, we've come down a lot back into the valley from the South Fork of Big Pine Creek, and we're at a trail crossing going to Willow Lake, which is that way. Probably can't read that, maybe you can. 4K is amazing. Brainerd Lake is up that way. That's the end of the regular South Fork Big Pine Trail, and this is where we leave the trail. I definitely need to eat something, so I'm going to take this pack off and eat and really take a look at the map and try to figure out the next steps in this route. But yeah, here we are. This is where the story of the trail ends. So we've got Sill and we've got Gailey there. And then I don't know what this is, but just beneath that and just over that ridge, which we're gonna get to from going up here, is Eleanor Lake. So we're very close. I'd say 3/4 of a mile. That looks pretty steep. Yeah, but we're very close to setting up camp tonight. I'm very excited about setting up camp. I'm tired. It's pretty steep. Tent's awesome. Water's going in the vestibule to boil so we can have dinner. It's the end of a long day. Tomorrow's gonna be probably just as long in many respects. I'm gonna have some food and set the bear canister away and I'm gonna just get some shut-eye, do some planning. Cool. See you again in the morning. Okay. Taking our first break of the day. The goal is get as far as you can by the turnaround time. Hopefully that's the top of Sill, but we've got to be realistic here. This is my first time. This place is spectacular. I met some folks on the trail yesterday. They're saying welcome to the temple, and that's appropriate, I think, considering everything. We made it up the first about 1,200 feet, camped at 11,000 feet. Top of Sill's at 14,000 feet. Sill, you can wave. It's Sill here. The sun is very much in my eyes, so that's Sill. Hey, Sill. It's actually kind of worse than it looks because we got that boulder field and then we're going to go over that and then there's going to be another boulder field, at least another boulder field, before you can get up to Glacier Notch, which is itself a boulder field. We've traded in the hat for a helmet because everywhere around you see is places you could fall and hurt a lot. Trading in the big old pack for a quick summit pack, just enough water and food to get us through a day. We have my 10 essentials in there: first aid, fire, emergency, shelter, take that stuff seriously. It's the Owens Valley all the way down below. That's Buck Mountain, I believe. You know how I am with these things. That there, that's Temple Crag. As I understand it, that might be one of the most climbed mountains in the Sierra. That there is Gailey. There is the big old hunk of Sill. And we're going right there. All right, I think I've had a good enough rest, so let's get our move on and yeah, I'll see you soon. Gotta watch those shadows. Sun's like right there. Anyway, see you soon. Okay, I screwed up. I thought I was going up a nice draw that would lead me to the slope that I wanted from the topo, but truth is, this is a little steeper than I was planning on. Plus there's the lake. The lake will ruin your day on that front. Yeah, there's our notch between Sill and Gailey. That's where we're headed. And this is how far back I have to go to get there. Because I'm a goober. Whew. Well, it's getting good. Yeah, we're getting close. I started filming this because the wind had died down, but the wind in the mountains is just going to make fun of you pretty much at all times. Whew. Eleanor Lake is nice. That's Glacier, well, that's Apex, and that's Glacier Notch. That's where we're going. That's the route up the mountain. So there's no excuse for me not to at least enter the route and find out what it's like, just to get some beta, some real hands-on beta about what it's like and what else I need to do to train. So I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I'll make it to the top of Sill today. Not this time. Gorgeous hunk of rock though, isn't it? We're almost there, guys. Okay, I'll put my head behind Apex Peak. That's Apex Peak. That's Sill, of course. And this is Glacier Notch. Now, normally, according to the beta, you need to worry about the permanent snowfield. And that, thanks to 2 straight massively dry years and like decades of drought, is what's left of the permanent snowfield here at Sill. So my next trick though is to come here. Let's see how far we can get. Oh, there's the wind. Okay, gotta go. And one of my main goals on this trip, that's seeing these bad boys right here. That's North Palisade over on the left. You can see some of the most classic routes out here in the Sierra. Kind of getting blown out. I'll take other video of this so it's not as auto blown out. You can see the glacier though. It's pretty big. That's a glacier. You see the dihedral. You can kind of see what is the U-notch classic mountaineering route. Ice climbing in winter. And there's all kinds of fun stuff happening there. Woo! Okay, I'm gonna get out of this wind. There's the entrance to Glacier Notch. That's where we're going next. It's surreal how quiet it is now. Just barely the end of a wind. Okay, it's 10:45. We made really good time. The trip up was way worse than the trip into the crux. The class 4 crux. The hardest part of this particular route to the summit, and maybe, just maybe, it was an overreach on my part to plan based on that route. But let's talk a little bit about classes so that we don't get too lost in jargon, right? What is scrambling? It's walking over terrain. So class 1, scrambling, is on a trail. So if you've ever been on a hiking trail, congratulations, you're a scrambler. Essentially, the class is guided by 2 criteria: how long, how far you will fall, and what you're going to fall on. How long and how far you're going to fall is called exposure, and what you're going to fall on is the terrain itself. So class 2, by definition, is off trail and usually involves some form of big old boulders. Doesn't have to. Talus comes in many forms, right down to some scree, which is not at all like a boulder and is really challenging to move through. Now, class 2 is also notorious for being kind of squishy, because this is where people's technical abilities have as wide a range as the possibilities of the terrain in front of you. So somebody's class 3 is going to be somebody else's class 2 kind of thing. But in general, the rule of thumb for class 2 is you occasionally need to use your hands for balance. And if you fall, it will hurt, because you're falling on rock. You're falling on boulders, generally speaking. Pretty much everything you see me do in this video so far is on class 2. Class 3, the reason there's no video of me doing class 3 work is because for class 3, you need the use of both of your hands to progress. Meaning I gotta put both of my hands on rock and get up away from what I'm doing, or get around whatever I'm doing. So I can't usually use the camera there. This is where being by yourself and wanting to take pictures of things kind of a problem. But generally speaking, class 3 is the use of both hands for progression, and if you fall, you will break a bone. Again, because you're generally falling on hard rocks and or boulders, and you're going up pretty high. So you're gonna fall further. The exposure is higher. We're gonna skip class 4 for a second. We're gonna save that in a moment. So class 5, though, if you're familiar with the Yosemite decimal system, you already have an inherent understanding of what class 5 scrambling is. And class 5 is basically climbing. It's extremely vertical, and you should always be using a rope for protection or some other form of protection. Class 4, technically, it's possible for someone to be good enough that they don't need the protection, but protection is generally speaking a good idea. And you can see exactly what that means here at the crux. This ledge, it's kind of snow covered right now. This ledge or this route, either one of these would be okay. I think this route is a little less exposed. This crux is class 4 because it is extremely vertical. It's hard to tell from the angle, but it actually slopes like away from you a bit, so it's not totally vertical. And like I said, it's not technically challenging. It doesn't require a whole lot of climbing moves in order to be successful at it. But crucially, the exposure here is extreme. Before the big fall, which is down there. All right, and that's what makes this class 4. Let's, if you fall, you will die. And this is where we will be stopping today, and I will be turning around. Somebody cut a rope off of that tongue of rock, probably an unsuccessful attempt to recover some kind of rappel gear or something, some kind of protection. Yeah, trying to do all this stuff alone is really kind of hard, you know? Yeah. But we got a lot further than Florence, and I checked the altimeter. We are above the peak of Morgan. Morgan's peak is 13,768, and we peaked at 13,801. So this is still the second highest. This is the highest I've ever been off trail. Still an achievement, still really good. And coming up Glacier Notch, I was really afraid of coming up Glacier Notch, and I did it, and honestly, the beta was solid. Like, stay to the right, stay out of the couloir, and take your time, and there will be footholds for you wherever you go. So that was good, and we just blasted up it. It was really fast. I'm still blown away by it, but that section there, really, really, really don't feel comfortable doing that by myself. So we're gonna have to find another way to the top of Mount Sill at another time. I'm going to take some pictures around this corner because we're above all the mountains, and like the view of Death Valley and the Panamint Valley and all this stuff is incredible. And then we're just going to get out and get back down to Eleanor Lake and then take stock from there. Okay, peace out. Say goodbye to Sill. Bye, Sill. We'll catch you some other time. Today was good. Okay, but to sum up, this trip to Sill was meant to do a couple of things. One, it was planned based on the guidelines for the wilderness travel course, outings to count towards graduation. I made a bunch of these plans because I wasn't sure which ones I would be able to do, and there were a couple that I couldn't do. But so the idea is it needed to be overnight, it needed to include a summit attempt, and it needed to include significant off-trail travel. And we did all of those things on here. Attempted Sill, went off trail for 8 whole miles of the 16.5-mile trip, and I spent the night. So this would have counted toward my WTC graduation if I hadn't managed any of the other trips, which I did, so that's great. But that's how that plan came together. And yeah, we did a hard thing. Now, just like with Mineral King, I wasn't able to do everything that I had planned. I can make a hat. I just can't put a hat on a hat, if you'll pardon the butchering of a theatrical metaphor. But it was a blast. And honestly, I've actually only been hunting 14ers for 16 months, which is kind of crazy. What is time anyway? The wilderness travel course, that happened this year. So I'm, in other words, at the beginning of my journey still. And getting that second 14er is proving to be a much bigger challenge than that first 14er. So yeah, that was Sill. I'm definitely going back. We're gonna try a different route. Gonna go to the North Fork. That's for a different time and a different day. I'm doing a bunch of stuff to teach myself how to do the climbing parts so that I don't have to do these goofy things on the non-climbing parts that are actually significantly harder than just going up to a mountain and climbing it. That's on tap for this winter. In the next couple of things that I'm gonna be doing, they're all gonna be outdoors on the rock. Like teaching myself the tools for training to be on the rock or just being on the rock out at Stony Point, a great resource in the Los Angeles area for rock climbing. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Otherwise, it was really glorious to be this close to my first mountaineering objective, which is the Palisade Traverse. So if you want to have some fun, go ahead and look up what that means and how people do that. Not there yet, but this was a great step forward, and I'm looking forward to doing some other stuff out in the wild. Until then, buen camino.